Hello, neighbor. I'm so glad you're here again. In this quiet space of ours, on my table, right now, there is a glass of water, just a simple glass filled with plain water, nothing special, no ice, no slice of lemon, just water. I have been sitting here and looking at it for a long while. I've watched the way the afternoon light passes through it, making little dancing patterns of light on the tabletop. I've watched the tiny air bubbles clinging to the side of the glass, like miniature stars in a quiet galaxy. It is so simple, and it is also so profound. Water. It is not complex, but it is essential for life. We can live without so many other, more complicated things, but we cannot live without water. And looking at this glass of water makes me think about an idea, a very important one. Deep and simple is far more essential than shallow and complex. The world we live in seems to always celebrate the complex, don't you think? We are encouraged to do many things at once. Our schedules are filled with meetings, appointments, endless to-do lists. We are measured by the number of accomplishments we can list. Our phones are constantly blinking with notifications, endless streams of news, opinions from all over the world. We can know a little bit about a great many things. We can speak superficially on 100 different topics. Why do we get caught up in that whirlwind? Perhaps, deep down, there is a fear of being left behind, a fear that if we are not constantly busy, constantly updating, we will become irrelevant, unimportant. And perhaps there is another fear, a fear of the quiet, because in the quiet, we might have to face the big questions, the feelings we have been trying to avoid. The complex busyness becomes a way for us not to listen to ourselves. And sometimes, at the end of such a day, we can feel that we have been very busy, very productive, but at the same time, there is a feeling of emptiness, a feeling that we have skimmed across the surface of so many things, but have not truly touched any of them. Like a person walking through a grand buffet, tasting a tiny bit of every dish, but in the end, never truly savoring a single one. The shallow and complex can fill our time, but the deep and simple is what nourishes our souls. Just like this glass of water. So what are these deep and simple things? Where can we find them? In the midst of such a noisy and complicated world, perhaps we can begin by looking at our daily actions, the deep and simple in what we do, to do one thing at a time. It's an idea that sounds so old-fashioned, but perhaps it holds a deep wisdom. I think of a baker I once met in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. His name was Samuel. He was an Amish man, and he lived a very simple life. His bakery was just a small room attached to his house. There were no modern machines, no flashy advertising campaigns. What he had was very simple: flour, water, yeast, salt, and his own 2 hands. And what he did was also very simple. Every morning, long before the sun came up, he did just one thing. He made bread. I had the chance to watch him work. He was in no hurry. Every movement he made was slow and intentional. the way he poured the flour into the large wooden bowl, the way he slowly added the water, feeling the dough's moisture with his fingertips, the way he kneaded the dough, not with a machine, but with the weight of his body and the rhythm of his own breath. The only sound in the room was the gentle thud of the dough against the bowl, a peaceful, rhythmic sound. He wasn't listening to the radio. He wasn't checking a phone. His whole being, his full attention was with that dough. He told me, the dough is a living thing. You have to listen to it. It will tell you when it needs more water, when it needs to rest. When the loaves went into his old-fashioned oven, the most wonderful smell began to fill the air, the smell of wheat, of yeast, of warmth. It is one of the most basic and comforting smells in the world. Samuel's loaves of bread were not complex shapes or filled with exotic ingredients. They were just simple loaves of rye or white bread. Very simple. But when you held a slice of his bread, it had a weight to it. The crust was crisp. The inside was soft and fragrant. When you ate it, you could taste the care, the attention, and the time that had been put into it. It didn't just fill your stomach, it warmed your heart. The complex world outside might tell us that Samuel was not successful. He didn't expand his business. He didn't optimize his process. But he did something deep. He dedicated his life to doing one simple thing extraordinarily well. He transformed the most basic ingredients into something that could nourish a community, and he found a deep, quiet joy in that very simplicity. Each of us has our own loaves of bread to make. It might be writing an email. It might be washing the dishes. It might be reading a story to a child. We can do these things in a hurried, shallow way, with our minds on 100 other things. Or we can try to do them the way Samuel did, just one thing, and to do it with our full attention. When washing a dish, just to feel the warm water on our hands, the weight of the plate. When reading to a child, just to get lost in the world of the story with them. When we do that, the most ordinary tasks can become a form of meditation. They become deep and meaningful moments, the deep and simple in our relationships. The modern world allows us to have hundreds, even thousands of friends on social media. We can know what they are eating, where they are traveling. We can exchange short comments. It is a complex and wide form of connection, but is it deep? The deep and simple in relationships perhaps lies in the other direction. It is not in the quantity, but in the quality. It is not in being known by many, but in being known deeply by a few. I think of two brothers, Michael and Tom. Michael lives in Philadelphia, and Tom lives in Pittsburgh. Their lives are very busy. They have their own families, their own jobs. They cannot see each other often. The complex and shallow way to connect would be to send short texts to each other every day. How are you? Good. How's work? Same old. Or they could simply follow each other's lives through pictures online. But Michael and Tom have a tradition, a very simple tradition. Once a year, in the autumn, they go fishing together for one day on a small river somewhere along the Susquehanna. They don't need much, just a couple of fishing rods, a box of bait, and 2 folding chairs. What they do is also very simple. They just sit there by the riverbank and cast their lines. For much of the time, they don't say anything at all. They just listen together to the sound of the water flowing, the sound of the wind rustling through the colored leaves, the sound of a woodpecker somewhere in the woods. But in that silence, there is a deep connection and understanding that needs no words. They know that the other person is there, fully there. They don't have to prove anything. They don't have to report on their successes or failures. They are simply 2 brothers sharing a quiet moment. Once in a while, Tom might say, "I still remember when Dad brought us fishing here." And Michael will just nod, "Yeah, that was the time I dropped the whole box of bait in the river." And they will share a quiet smile. That one day of fishing, it nourishes their relationship more than a whole year of shallow text messages, because it is deep. It is the gift of undivided presence. It is the comfort of being your true self with another person. And the memory of that simplicity doesn't end when they get in the car to go home. A week later, when Michael is sitting in a stressful meeting in a tall office building, the image of the quiet river and his brother's presence might come back to him, not as a clear thought, but as a feeling of deep calm, an anchor that helps him to be more steady in the midst of the complexity of his work. We may not have a brother to go fishing with, but we can apply that principle to our own lives. It could be setting aside half an hour each week to have a cup of tea with a close friend, with the only rule being that no phones are allowed, just talking and listening. Or it could be a family dinner where the television is turned off, where people actually look at each other and ask about each other's day. These simple acts can make a tremendous difference. They are the fertile ground where deep relationships can take root and grow. The deep and simple in how we take in the world. The internet gives us an amazing power. We can access a vast amount of information with just a few clicks. We can learn about the latest scientific discovery, a political event on the other side of the world, or a new fashion trend. It is a fascinating complexity, but it can also be very shallow. We read the headlines, we skim the summaries, we collect scattered pieces of information, but are we really understanding anything? The deep and simple in knowledge perhaps lies in slowing down, in choosing one topic, no matter how small, and really learning about it. I think of a woman named Agnes, who lives in a small house in a Boston suburb. She is in her 80s. She does not use a computer. She does not have a smartphone. Her world might seem very small, but Agnes has a passion. Ferns. In her small backyard garden, she grows more than 20 different kinds of ferns. What she has is very simple: an old trowel, a watering can, and dozens of old, worn-out botany books. And what she does is spend her time observing and learning. She can tell you the Latin name for every one of them. She can point out the subtle differences in the shapes of their fronds. She knows which ones like shade, which ones need more water. She knows the story of how each one was discovered. Her knowledge is not wide. She may know nothing about the stock market or the latest movie stars, but her knowledge of the world of ferns is incredibly deep, and so is her joy one morning when she discovers a new tiny fiddlehead unfurling from a plant she thought was dead. That joy is so simple, but it is also so profound and real. It is a joy that comes from a deep connection with one small part of the natural world. It is a joy that scrolling through 100 news headlines online can never provide. We don't all have to become experts on ferns, but perhaps we can each choose something to learn about deeply. It could be the history of the neighborhood where you live. It could be the music of a composer you admire. It could be how to make a loaf of bread from scratch. When we go deep into a subject, we learn more than just facts. We learn patience and observation, and an appreciation for the intricate complexity of the world. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the deep and simple in who we are. The complex world seems to demand that we be complex people, to have an impressive resume, a dramatic personal story, a carefully crafted image, but perhaps the most valuable gift lies in our simple, honest self, the person underneath all of those layers and roles. Depth does not come from how many roles we play. It comes from how true we are to ourselves. This requires us to listen to our core values. What is really, truly important to you when no one is looking? Is it kindness? Is it honesty? Is it creativity? Is it peace? And then to try to live by those values in our small, everyday actions. It is a very simple path, but it is not an easy one. It requires courage, the courage to say no to the shallow and complex things that pull at us, the courage to choose a quiet evening at home over a loud social event we don't really want to attend, the courage to be an ordinary person with an ordinary life lived in a meaningful way. I look back at the glass of water on my table. It is still there, still clear, still simple. It is not trying to be wine or a complicated cocktail. It is just water. And in that simplicity, there is an extraordinary strength and beauty. Perhaps we can learn something from it. 2, that we do not need to be complex to be of value. That the most basic and true things in life, an act done with full attention, a relationship nourished by presence, a knowledge cultivated by patience, and a person who is true to their own self, these are the essential things. These are the things that are deep and simple, and they are far more important than all the shallow complexities in the world. You've made this day a special day just by being you, your deep and simple self. Thank you for being here. My neighbor